Welcome into Four Downs. This is Erik McKinney, joined by Greg Katz. And Greg, let's take a look at number 6 USC hosting the Stanford Cardinal. USC has posted 2 big wins on the season. Stanford is coming off a win at Hawaii. They're going to be on the road again. 7:30 kick at the Coliseum, and we expect a pretty full Coliseum for this one. Lincoln Riley has certainly kind of gone out of his way to make sure fans show up, and it feels like it's going to be a pretty fun atmosphere for, as far as we can tell, the last conference clash between these two longtime rivals. So let's get into Four Downs. Our first down is when USC quarterback Caleb Williams and that offense takes the field. What one thing are you looking at from that USC offense?
Seems to be a weekly thing with me. I'm going to be looking at that offensive line. I want to see what they go with, how long they go with the first unit that's in there, and how much they're going to substitute, and who substitutes where, because that's going to have far-ranging deals for the future of the schedule. So that's what I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I'm going to back you up on this, and it's offensive line, and it's really kind of very specific places for me. Starting at the tackles, I think David Bailey, Stanford's outside linebacker, defensive end, kind of do it all. He's coming off 3 sacks against Hawaii, a Pac-12 Defensive Lineman of the Week award. He is going to kind of come, I think, from everywhere. He's a guy that you can do a lot with, dropping coverage, play him against the run, bring him against the quarterback. How do those tackles fare against him? And then moving inside one spot, and it's the left guard and the right guard. This is the first game where USC is going to play without Gino Quinones, who was probably as up there in terms of how valuable he was to this offensive line as a potential starter or a backup that could play anywhere. USC had to play a bulk of the game against Nevada without him. First time you're going in after losing him for the season into a game without him. I'm super curious kind of what those two guards do. I think we would expect the transfers, Jarrett Kingston, who played extensively at right guard against Nevada, and then Emmanuel Pregnon, who played a lot of the game at left guard. Alani Noah, the true freshman, is hanging around there too. How do those guys fare? Are those your 2 guards for the rest of the season? Because again, like you mentioned, it's okay to kind of rotate players and see what you have early in the year. You don't really want to be doing that against some of these better teams that you're coming up with. And that time is running out. USC is going to get the bye week, and then you assume kind of another warm-up game against Arizona State before things start to get pretty real. So again, these are Pac-12 athletes that Stanford is bringing, and you're going to have to do well on that offensive line. So I'm right with you. The skill players, super fun. You're going to get a lot of points, probably a lot of yards, but that's not something I think that tells you a lot about the potential trajectory for the rest of the season. So you and I locked in on the offensive line there. We're going to go to second down here, and that's going to be our look at the other side of the ball when that USC defense comes out on the field against what's going to be a pretty new look Stanford offense, new head coach, new system there for Stanford. It's not the huddle up and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 offensive linemen that Stanford has rolled out there before. Your one thing that you're looking at from the USC defense?
Well, I struggled to come to a tiebreaker on this one. It was between the secondary and the linebackers. And the first, just a definition of what I'm talking about is you're going to have probably a freshman linebacker starting on the inside, right? And possibly Shane Lee. The 2 anticipated linebackers, Cobb and Gentry are, we don't know what's going to happen just by what Lincoln Riley said. I don't have a great deal of optimism in that area. Maybe I'm wrong. But that being said, I think because of the style of offense that Stanford's running now, I think we're going to get a pretty good idea what they think of the USC secondary, because they're going to throw the ball around. And, my eyes are going to be on the 2 corners, whoever they end up being for USC. I mean, I think we have a good idea who they are. But Covington is one I'm going to want to concentrate on. I'm concerned a little bit about one of the safeties, and the other, cornerback. I think also has. I'm not mentioning him by names because I don't want to get anyone upset or embarrassed at me, but I am concerned about what we're going to see, because even if Stanford has decent success, like you mentioned so eloquently, it's what the future holds. They're going to face some really number one draft picks, and they're going to attack and attack and attack. I'm really interested to see what Stanford head coach Troy Taylor decides to and how he decides to attack. That's going to be fascinating for me.
Yeah, interesting. You went linebacker and the secondary. I'm going to look right up front, right in the middle, and it's Bear Alexander. What we saw him do against Nevada, especially, where he got a ton of snaps and played a bunch and had a huge impact on that game. He, at certain points, was just carrying Nevada offensive linemen 4 yards into the backfield and tossing them around. He was a menace in that game. It's a step up, right? Stanford's offensive line lost a bunch of veteran players to the transfer portal who aren't there, but they still have a few guys up front. And this is again, kind of a Power 5 offensive line. It might not be the best line. It certainly will not be the best offensive line that USC sees all year, but it is absolutely a step up from San Jose State, from Nevada. I want to see if Bear Alexander has that same impact. And I think he will. I want to see if he can do that against this kind of line, because again, what we're talking about, that gives you a hint. Can you see this down the road, right? Can that defensive line push Stanford's offensive line around enough to make a real impact in this game, just like it did against Nevada? You're raising that level up a little bit. Can USC's production go up? I agree with you on that secondary. What are you going to get? There's a big tight end that Stanford's going to bring. There's a big wide receiver on the outside that Stanford's going to bring. USC hasn't really seen that so far this year. Struggled with those really talented tight ends last year. So this is going to be their first chance to prove that. But just like we talked about on the offense, right up on the line of scrimmage, that's what I want to see here. Lincoln Riley talked this week about, bigger, faster, stronger, and he likes what he's seen kind of with the physical play that USC has brought. Again, this isn't Stanford where you've got the Stanford of years past, where you've got multiple potential first-round pick NFL offensive linemen, but it's still a group with some guys up there. And so can USC's defensive front take the game to Stanford? That's where my eyes are going to be on Saturday night. That's our look at offense, defense for USC. Let's go into kind of the fun portion here in this part on our third down, brought to you by our partner, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the simplest form of real money daily fantasy sports. Pits you against the numbers. So how you do this, you go to prizepicks.com or you download the app. Make sure you enter promo code SC, and PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. So you're going to go there. You're going to pick 2 to 6 players. Again, this is a daily fantasy sports. 2 to 6 players. You can win 25 times your money on any entry. Greg, we're going to get into who I went with, and I want you to be able to tell me why I'm wrong here, because I know, again, that's everybody's favorite thing. So I looked just at this game, right? Went with Caleb Williams, and this is what we've done multiple weeks now. 3.5 passing plus rushing plus receiving touchdowns. So 3.5 touchdowns that Caleb Williams is responsible for. I went more than that. And then I looked at the flip side, quarterback Ashton Daniels for Stanford. We talked about the tight end, the wide receiver, what they're going to bring offensively. I think the USC defense, especially in the secondary, rises to the challenge. I think they keep him. I went less than 238.5 passing yards. I don't think Stanford wants to get into a big time offensive shootout with USC. And I know it's a different offense, but that's kind of what I see. I see the USC secondary rising up and holding Ashton Daniels less than 238.5 passing yards. And I see Caleb Williams doing Caleb Williams things. What do you like there?
Well, when it comes to the Caleb Williams pick, I mean, come on. This game's on Fox television. The bright lights are on. I mean, other than it's a 7:30 kickoff, of course, but everyone will tune in at least for the first half if you're on the East Coast just to watch Caleb Williams. It's got to be more. I mean, it's like that's like easy pickings to me. How could he not get at least three? I mean, if he threw for 5 touchdowns the last game or whatever that number was, I mean, you get to the point where you say, look at this guy is so good that he's going to be. I think that's Caleb calling me to remind me that he's going to throw for at least 4 or 5 touchdowns. That's impossible because I tell you what, because I've got Caleb right here. And Caleb, are you all for it? Are you going to score more than 5 touchdowns on national TV? Oh, you are. Well, there you got the answer. He's going to do it. So I think it's going to happen. No brainer to me.
You like the USC running game? I think that still gets in there. When you let Caleb drop back to throw, especially once you get into kind of that deep red zone, 20 to 15 yard line, even outside of that, there's so many options. The slot receivers have been so good, moving running backs around. USC's done a really good job of kind of using motion. And then Caleb's going to make a Caleb Williams play, probably 2 every game, where you don't know what's going to happen. The ball's going to end up in a wide receiver's hand in the end zone. So again, I will be very interested to see the USC running game, if that cuts into what Caleb can do in terms of production, and also that USC secondary. I think they have a chance to make a statement here before they go into the bye week. So that's it. Thanks again to our friends at PrizePicks. Again, to play along, prizepicks.com or download the app, enter promo code SC. PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Let's go to our fourth down, and that's our number. So your statistic, your number, whatever that is, Greg, go ahead.
Well, I'm conflicted between 2 numbers. I'm conflicted between the number 24 and 77,500.
Okay.
And I'll take the second number first. That's the capacity for the Coliseum. And we all know that Lincoln Riley, and I myself included, I think we want to see a sellout. But there's a lot of talk, right, especially today, that it could get near a sellout. And wouldn't that be especially good for everybody concerned? But I think I'm going to go with the number 24, and that's the number 24. How many points I think Stanford is probably going to score, give or take a little bit. There is no way they're going to keep up with SC scoring. I mean, if you're Troy Taylor, you just simply say to yourself, look, I'm a wide open coach. I like to score. Come on. You're not going to get into a slugfest with, Joe Frazier or Joe Lewis, or any heavyweight. You're going to get knocked out easy. So he's going to have to decide, am I going to look for the long range for the future of my team? And this is just one game, and we have to put our program and not start changing everything for one game. So he's liable to go toe to toe, see what he can do. I think the SC secondary, and which I was going to say before, I think they will be tested with USC, the tight end. We've already kind of touched on that. So I think 24 is what I would expect that they would score, but I would like to see less points, to be honest with you.
Yeah, funny. We're kind of on the same wavelength. So the capacity is 77,500, but it's shrunk a little bit because of those banners that are covering some of those seats over by the peristyle end. So again, a sellout would be great. USC fans, you hear a lot, right? They'll come out when the team is winning. Well, this team has not lost under Lincoln Riley yet, and there has not been a sellout crowd for a USC team that has been ranked highly in every game in the Lincoln Riley era. So again, that would be a fun atmosphere. You hear Lincoln Riley talk a lot about we need that juice back, right? We're excited to get back to that. Caleb Williams this week on his podcast talks a little bit about you're starting to see some of those celebrities, some of those big names kind of make their way back into USC football. This could be one of those night game atmospheres. You got the drone show at halftime. Like this could be a fun one on Saturday night. So I'm with you on that second number, and the number that I wanted to go with along those same lines. It's 14, and that is points allowed. USC gave up 14 to Nevada. Last year, they gave up 14 to Rice. That's the best number that USC's defense has posted under Lincoln Riley. And, you know, it's not a huge sample size, but going back to last year, first 2 games of this year, the fewest points that they've allowed in a game is 14. I would like to see USC's defense make a real statement, because you're still getting some of the national kind of talking heads. Whenever USC's brought up, there is always but the defense. It's always added in. They know how good the USC offense is. I mean, you can't not talk about how good the offense is. But if they watch the games or not, or look at the score or actually break stuff down, every single time you hear USC spoken about, there's always the caveat, but the defense. Do they have a defense? And I think that if USC comes out and they can keep Stanford to 10 points, to 7 points, to 3 points maybe, that is a statement that carries these next 2 weeks when USC is not on the field next weekend. I think you can make a statement. It doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't beat Notre Dame. It doesn't beat Oregon. It doesn't do anything like that. But if you start to change the narrative, I think that's important, and it comes down to points. The big plays, not allowing big plays, clearly important. You've got to keep rushing yards down. You've got to do all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, when there's a game that certainly there's no confusion on our part, is USC going to win this game or not? So when you have a game that you are expected to win big, I think putting up that low number in terms of points allowed does a lot for the way that USC could be talked about over the next 2 weeks. And if you can get rid of that, but the defense, that then changes the conversation later in the year to when you might have some shootouts, right? If you take care of business in these games, if you do beat Washington 46-45 or something like that, that's more about the Washington offense than, oh, here we go again, USC's given up, a ton of points. So that for me is the number that I'm looking at in this one. And again, hopefully offensively, we're looking at 600 total yards, more than that. And it's another fun one with touchdowns all over the place for USC. But I think they could really get something done if they put together a big time defensive performance in terms of the scoreboard. So Greg, that's our 4 downs. And I know you and I both looking forward to USC and Stanford on Saturday night. It should be a fun one again, as we kind of say goodbye, maybe temporarily. There's a lot of even Lincoln Riley sort of talked about expansion. We might be right back here in a couple of years with this being a conference game. Who knows where that's going to go? But for now, the end of this Pac-12 intra-conference rivalry between USC and Stanford, Saturday night, 7:30 at the Coliseum. Again, expecting a good crowd for the number 6 USC Trojans, looking to go 3-0. So for Greg Katz, this is Erik McKinney. Thanks for watching 4 Downs. Thanks for watching WeAreSC.